The following podcast is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Connect, Australia's newest choice for event management and brand development specializing in pro wrestling.
And now, the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. Watch global. Support local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The moves.
B plus.
Check it out! Here we go! You wanna mess with us? 'Cause we're steady on the ground.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in the B Plus land. It is me, it is I, the one they call Mr. Mysterious, and welcome to All the Rest, the wrestling podcast that covers all the wrestling news in this wacky, very weird world of professional wrestling. Every time I come to this microphone, it seems like it gets stranger and stranger. Don't get me wrong, I like my strangeness and I like my eccentricity with wrestling and just with gossip to talk to people about in general. But just like every once in a while, something comes around and just, it's a curveball every single week, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm glad to discuss it all here with you guys. We're going to be talking about a little MLW news, a bit of All Elite Wrestling, NWA, weird WWE stories, mainly WWE stories, and then just any other curveballs and other just head scratches that have come right off my desk and you guys need to know about, because I need to keep you guys in the know about all the goings on in wrestling, and the best place to do that is right here on the B Plus with me for All the Rest. So before I start, birthdays. So at the time I'm recording, ladies and gentlemen, July 13th, we have member of D-Generation X, X-Pac, turns 47. Big congratulations to him. Got Jake Christ of the Christ Brothers of OVE, former Impact Tag Team Champions, current Blackcraft Tag Team Champions, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Turns 35 today. That he's still going strong in his career. When this comes out for the 14th, we have Big Double J, Jeff Jarrett, former Intercontinental Champion, former founder of TNA and all that jazz, now a producer back in WWE. He turns 52. He's had quite the career so far. You have, of the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray or Bully Ray, or however you know him best, turns 48 today. And announcer Charlie Caruso, is a little bit of announcer pride here. She turns 32. So hope everyone had a lovely day for these past few days. And now that that's all been said and done, let's talk about MLW and their latest pay-per-view event, Kings of Colosseum, where we crowned a new world champion. This was a very surprising episode of MLW. Like, not only was it longer, the quality improved, a lot of curveballs thrown around in this, so I'm going to try and condense this as quick as I can, just because there's a lot to get through. So we started this out, of course, so we had the Star Spangled Open Challenge, so you had the Dynasty come out, Hammerstone is issuing an open challenge to the locker room, and who would answer it but the Haitian sensation? I thought we were over this. So, like, Koto Brazil had faced off against Richard Holiday a couple weeks ago. He's relegated to a jobber status now, and it was pretty obvious that in Hammerstone's first defense, this is like, Koto is there just to make Hammerstone look like a chiseled athlete, and on commentary you have MJF and Aria Blake just to hammer home just how amazing the Dynasty is and everything else. And it's, I don't know what was better, the bickering between MJF and Jim Cornette, or the match itself between like Koto succeeding in putting over Alexander Hammerstone. It was a very fast-paced match. Like, I did love it. There didn't need to be any tomfoolery going around. Like, it was just pretty much a simple match. Honestly, like, I think the crowd was surprisingly behind Hammerstone. I think at one stage, Hammerstone had the side advantage, but he couldn't match Koto step for step. He even lands a frog splash, but it wasn't enough to keep Hammerstone down, and it seemed to piss some people off in the crowd. I was really surprised, just the dynamic. So after this, without cheating or anything else, Hammerstone wins. Nightmare Pendulum, I still love that finisher. 1, 2, 3. Does some posing in the ring, and they brought up the American flag, so they're making him really seem like a stand-up guy. MJF gets on the microphone, and he gleefully says to the crowd about Hammerstone winning, and he lays a challenge to the Hart Foundation for the MLW World Tag Team Championships. As we roll on with Kings of Coliseum, we have the Contra Unit. They have a couple promos going through. Tom Lawler has shaved the rest of his hair off now. He looks like he's serious. Like, I love this new look. Personally, he looks like he's really just focused now. There was a promo with Simon Gotch at first, and then Tom Lawler just casually just knocks him out. Like, just as if he's nothing, because he is pretty much nothing in MLW, let's be honest. But yeah, it's more of a... Lawler's just like wasting no time just to try and intimidate Fatu and Samael and Contra in general, and just for the fun, he keeps beating the crap out of Simon Gotch, because why not? They talk about Saturday Night Superfight. Of course, we mentioned last week that's their very first pay-per-view, like proper pay-per-view, not on YouTube. It's going to be November 2nd. All 4 titles are going to be on the line. They're only charging like $19.95. I'm guessing it's US, which is only about roughly $30 Australian, which isn't too bad. The next match we have is the Warrior for Justice, Myron Reed, facing off against Ray Horus. And Reed is accompanied by Discount Mitch Waterman, a.k.a. Jordan Oliver, who is now joined the Justice Cause. He's got tape over his mouth and everything else. I feel like Rich Swann is still a part of this. I haven't seen him for a while, actually. I don't know if I'm missing something. I feel like he's still part of MLW, but like now, like, they've grown by 3, or at least he might be replacing for the time being. But anyways, really great, fast-paced match. Ray Horus is putting on a Lucha Libre showcase. He's putting on a classic. Reed manages to kick out every time. Like, they did a few Spanish flies and everything else. Oliver swung wildly at Horus, like ducked out of the way, and then he kicked Oliver in the upper back, sending him off the apron. So, like, obviously that the referee had to be on guard the entire time because of these guys and their justice mantra. And so because of that, this actually gave the opportunity for Myron Reed a chance to recover during the match. Horus turned around into a sick springboard uppercut, and Myron covered him for the victory. So these guys have finally picked up a win. Now, I know one victory isn't a pattern, but if these guys are going to slowly start racking up wins, we'll see where the storyline goes, because I don't know, like, corrupt official storylines, they don't really work too well. So I'm not quite sure what the motive is now. So it was like they're trying to make it seem like the officials are being underhanded, and now it's just like, no, you just don't like the fact that you're losing, and now it's become that, and now it's more like, now they're going to start winning. So what are they going to do now? The official story. Like, I don't get what their fight. I don't get what the justice is for. Like, this justice. Screw it. I'm going to call them the Justice League, because they're going to slowly start bringing in members for no reason. Why not? They're the Justice League. I'm going with it, guys. Coming back, we have the new MLW backstage correspondent, Georgia Smith, of course, the sister of Davey Boy Smith Jr., cousin of Teddy Hart, low-key Hart Foundation 4th member. Now, this is what I like to call the worst, like, weirdest and worst, like, Hart Foundation promo I've ever seen of them, and that this sucks. So, what happened is, so Davey Boy Smith accepts the challenge by MJF on behalf of the family and ups the ante. So he's saying that he's talking about the days of Stampede Wrestling, like first done by Bret Hart and Bad News Allen. He's talking about making it a ladder match for next week. So Davey also wants to give Brian Pillman Jr. the opportunity to snap his losing streak and bring honor to the family, right? Now, like, Davey Boy is not a good promo, and like, I don't mean to disrespect the man, because I think he's fantastic. He's the strong silent type wrestler, but the problem is the Dynasty been calling him out on it. So he's trying to experiment more with talking more, trying to be a bit more eloquent. He's trying to use bigger words, and he's trying to be a valiant babyface and everything else. The problem is that's just not him yet. and it feels like he's been taking lessons from Teddy. Now, Teddy is a rambler. Like, Teddy makes no sense half the time. He's just a crazy cat man. And like that's why we love Teddy Hart. But taking advice from Teddy Hart with regards to promos, no good idea, personally. So you have him just trying to make sense and trying to seem like this valiant babyface guy, but he's just rambling and not making sense. And so he said this big thing and say he wants to give Brian Pillman a chance to defend the belt. And Teddy, bless him, like his bit was great. He just kind of looks at the belt, look at Davey Boy, just like, oh yeah, I'll go tell Brian. He just walks off camera. And they should have ended it there, but they didn't. They brought in Brian Pillman to say the exact same thing that they just said to the camera, and Brian Pillman has to act like he is like a teenager and just like doesn't know how to wrestle. Like, oh, you sure I should be trusted with this? Like, you guys believe I can do it and everything else? And like Brian Pillman Jr., he's not a newbie. Like, granted, he's the rookie of the year in MLW, but he's in his late 20s. Let's be real here. Like, it's just, I understand that they've taken him under the Hart Foundation have taken him under his wing, but they're treating him like he's a like absolute teenager trainee. It was weird. I want the Hart Foundation to be great. I want to watch this from my memory. It was a very bizarre promo. It got the message across at least, but just the delivery was just all over the place. We cut to the live Jim Cornette Experience interview with Selena De La Renta, and my God, was she just drop dead gorgeous in that outfit. Just, I have to remember that she's only just 22 years old, and she is just crushing it in MLW. And they're calling her the top female entrepreneur in her home country. They're trying to ask her about LA Park, which, like, why the hell would she talk about LA Park cashing in the golden opportunity? It's just, yeah. Selena brushed off any idea that she's threatened by Conan returning, and speak of the devil, Conan appears. And this is the first time we've seen him since he got shanked by Promociones, but got shanked by Low Ki. And he just says that, it's very weird. So she says that he can't please a woman and everything else, and like he comes out and just like, I'll prove to you I can please a woman right now. And just like, Conan, you're kind of missing the point of what she's kind of talking about there. But yeah, she has a secret about Conan, a secret that if she were to reveal, it would bring Conan's career to complete halt. And if he keeps pushing her, she'll show people, and you do not mess with Selena De La Renta. So they have a big secret to reveal. What was it going to be? We'll find out soon. We will find out soon. We have, I love this. So the Dynasty find out that the Hart Foundation have accepted the challenge, but they find out that they've made it a ladder match for the World Tag Team titles. Hammerstone and Holiday, they're excited. They're overjoyed that they get to have the challenge and that Brian Pillman Jr. is involved because they think, like, that schmuck, great, we're going to kick his ass. And MJF is on the same page with them so far until they reveal that it's a ladder match, and he is pissed. Like, he's afraid of heights. He is afraid of heights. Like, that's what it seems like. And I like this little character thing, because if you think about it, when Teddy Hart won the middleweight championship and it was the vacant belt, it was meant to be it was a fatal five-way or four-way, but then Teddy Hart came in for the middleweight title. It was a ladder match, and like, I feel like they wanted to use this element then, and now they get to. It's like, so if you think about it, MJF doesn't really do much high-flying stuff. Like, it's a little tiny thing, but like, yeah, afraid of heights. Like, every person has a fault. MJF just seems to be afraid of heights, so good on him for doing that. We have a video montage of Filthy Tom and Contra and everything else. The Von Erichs, of course. I love that. So before the big main event for MLW, they actually show the lineage of the world title, including the OG MLW. So they talk about Mike Awesome, they talk about Steve Corino, and then they bring in like Shane Strickland and Low Ki and then Tom Lawler. So fantastic. Like, when they're slowly starting to integrate the old school back into MLW. Loved it. We had the main event where And I love this. So the fact that Samael is like this wild manager now because Simon Gotch got taken out, Contra should just be this. So clearly, the power behind Contra is Jacob Fatu. Now, Samael is a former world champion, and former NWA world champion, I should say, but he's in his late 40s. He's slowing down a lot, and Simon Gotch just attaches himself to whatever. So, I'm hoping that this is kind of a signal for things to come, that Samael is going to transition into more of a manager role. He can still do the fireballs and everything else, and then they can just focus on Fatu being this absolute beast of a champion. Now, as for the match itself, it was glorious. Like, Tom Lawler got schooled. Like, he was showing more anger than we've ever seen from him before, and that's saying something because he's been in hardcore matches with like Jimmy Havoc and everything else. But yeah, he's used to being the bigger, stronger man in the ring. And like, as for the match itself, in terms of like, it wasn't a technical masterpiece because Tom Lawler is more of a MMA fighter, and he's using everything that he can, but nothing is phasing Fatu. He's trying to do his big chokehold. He like continuously, like half a dozen times, like he'll do it. He'll jump on Fatu's back, do a chokehold. He'll break out. Do the chokehold again. He'll break out. Do the chokehold again. It keeps going on and on and on. Like, they're just completely unraveling the mystique of his dreaded super chokehold because he's an MMA fighter. And of course, that means it's stronger and everything else. But yeah, no chokehold, no kick, no punch, no low. He just casually low blows Fatu while the ref is distracted. Like, your babyface champion just, without even blinking, just kicked him in the nuts. Like, oh, that was not a good character moment for Tom Lawler, but it showed how like desperate he was getting with this. He was throwing everything at the Samoan werewolf, and in the end, Fatu just like took him down the entire time. His springboard moonsaults, his BTE, BME best moonsault ever. 1, 2, 3. Your new MLW World Heavyweight Champion, the unstoppable Jacob Fatu, and I could not be happier. I've not been happy with Tom Lawler's reign as world champion. I thought eventually he would find the swing of things, and he's had some okay defenses. Like, he like low-key tried to put him over, and they seem like they really wanted him to be this big, valiant babyface champion, and it just never transitioned too well for my liking. Now we've got this unstoppable monster that they're doing the rematch, I think, in another few weeks, but there's no telling what they can do with Contra. And like, this is a big upset. Like, I got some people who tried to talk smack at me online saying like, oh, why is this a big upset? Fatu's been undefeated. Like, yeah, he's this big monster guy, but you don't just slap a world title on someone who just comes into the company. And Tom Lawler, again, they invest so much in him as an MMA fighter. It was a big decision, and like Tom Lawler was the underdog, surprisingly enough, in this match, even though I thought he was the obvious choice to win, but clearly not. So I was pleasantly surprised. For all the people who were trying to call me out online, there's your answer. I thought, overall, fantastic episode. It's like one of the best pay-per-views of MLW I think I've seen for quite a while. I'm actually really satisfied with it. And I'm looking forward to the tag team ladder match, the Dynasty and Hart Foundation, seeing the next chapter between these two teams, and just whatever else is coming our way, because it seems like MLW is on the rise, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go to some All Elite Wrestling news. We've got some Being the Elite, episode 160, Go Away Heat. And apparently, because people don't like the Librarian, they do an intro, the Young Bucks do an intro with Lena Bates about how people apparently love the Librarian. They clearly love that whole dynamic at Fighter Fest. No. But they talk about that, and they're just like, you know what? Because she said that, we're going to put the Librarian in everything. Like, straight, they're doing their creative meeting, and they're just like, go and look at the pages and Being the Elite of their meeting. Like, they're talking about who should we bury, making Cody a jobber, like making Kenny a jobber, and like more comedy. I don't need a partner. I need my older brother. All of that's on the page. It's hilarious. But they're saying like, yeah, we'll put the librarians in the main event of Fight for the Fallen. They're not going to do that, guys. Like, they're not going to. But like they're just going to give them big go away heat, the librarians. And the Peter Avalon was announced to be faced off against Sonny Kiss in the Fight for the Fallen episode. That's what we're talking about as well. So the librarians are here to stay for now, at least. But they're at least the Young Bucks and AEW are aware of the backlash to the characters and what exactly they represent. But this is covering AEW at a convention, the Young Bucks at a convention, saying that they have great fans. Mick Foley was at the same convention, which was hilarious, and he was trying to convince people to get out of the Young Bucks line and go to his line, trying to say that these people have WWE shirts on, they should clearly go to his line. But he's like, well, there are Young Buck people in your line, so they should come back to us. And like, as you were. It was stupid. It was funny. Good to see Mick Foley doing his thing. Apparently, SCU missed a flight. That happened. You have a couple mailbag questions. That one of the Young Bucks, I think it's Nick, actually gets asked, "Why do you hate Cody and Goldust, Dustin's I need my older brother thing?" Because they keep mentioning it, and he's saying like, "Oh, I think it's just been overused now." Like, they're the ones who've overused it. Damn it, they're the ones who have been going off about this. And then we get a big reveal that another match for Fight for the Fallen, SCU versus the Lucha Brothers, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky versus Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. All the yes for this one. It's probably going to be maybe a first couple matches in the main card. Whatever, like just the names alone for Fight for the Fallen, I'm excited for this. And yeah, they've got a real great card. It's streaming, of course, on Bleacher Report Live. Yeah, go check it out, guys. Obviously, all the money's going to a great cause. You should do that. You should definitely do that. And then you had the Road for Fight for the Fallen, episode 3, where you had the Alex Marvez, the statistician, talk about the stats between the Rhodeses versus the Young Bucks. And this is pretty much exactly what Greg Unchained was saying a few weeks ago for Double or Nothing, how his role is going to slowly be this statistician, like, oh, here's some fun facts. So Greg, if you're listening as he's editing, you are right, my friend, you are right. You get a cookie for your observational skills. We get a little bit of a backstage thing with Ali, like her side of the story with her match going forward. Talk about her becoming a Knockouts champion, which is awesome. Then we talk about you have Dustin and Cody. They talk about how they were one of the best tag teams in WWE. They are the first people to beat the Shield, and they didn't like how the Young Bucks were talking smack about them. Damn, Facebook. They didn't like how the Young Bucks were talking smack about them. So yeah, like there's more heat here, like more bit of fire. By the time this comes out, guys, I'm sure Fight for the Fallen will have already been released. So yeah, I'm excited for everything that's coming out from All Elite Wrestling going forward. So yeah, you guys should look forward to that. Cuts to the land of the National Wrestling Alliance. No 10 pounds of gold this week, but we did get a couple of videos. So one of them was the video where James Storm did beat Colt Cabana for the national championship. The way he did it was very underhanded, very cruel to Colt Cabana, if I do say so myself. It was very Colt did promise him 5 more minutes, and boy, there were 5 more minutes of torture on the part of Cabana. But yeah, go watch that quote unquote match, and how James Storm, the cowboy, the outlaw, the true outlaw of the NWA. He is not part of Ring of Honor, apparently. He's not part of the NWA. He's James, Mother Flurkin Storm. Good on him. If you want to hear one of our interviews with him from a little while ago, please do so. We love the cowboy here at the B+. But one of the other episodes, or one of the other uploads that NWA did, was apparently Nick Aldis offered Marty Scurll a rematch with a little caveat. So rather than necessarily against him, against a member of Villain Enterprises, which this intrigues me. So there are 4 members of Villain Enterprises now. You have Marty, PCO, Brody King, and Flip Gordon. Now, 3 of the members are the 6-man tag team champions. So you have one guy, the new guy, Flip. He doesn't have anything yet. Now, Marty could have a rematch with Nick Aldis and win the 10 pounds of gold. And you got to remember that PCO and Brody King are also the tag team champions in NWA. So more gold for Villain Enterprises regardless, more stable gold. But I'm thinking maybe they could go the route of Flip Gordon being the NWA champion so that all 4 members of Villain Enterprises get all the gold. And then maybe at All Out, we can see Flip Gordon defend the belt. I feel like they had the belt at All In. They need to have it All Out. They haven't said anything. I hope they still can because of so the NWA is kind of tethered now to Ring of Honor, and they're tethered to New Japan. And depending on how that relationship is, we might not see them affiliate with All Elite Wrestling because New Japan and WWE apparently hate All Elite Wrestling. We'll touch on that a little bit there, but I'm very excited on this possibility. I wanted Marty Scurll to win last time, and I'm hoping that this little twist might mean that maybe, just maybe, we might see a new NWA National Heavyweight Champion. So we'll see what happens there, ladies and gentlemen. So before we get into all the other signings and injuries and all the other crazy news that's come across my desk this week, let's cut to Greg with our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This month we are sponsored by Grapple, a fantastic new wrestling app available on iOS and Google Play completely for free, where you can rate all the matches that you watch in WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all across the world, and we are even getting Australian wrestling involved in the Grapple app rating system as well, starting with PWA Pro Wrestling Australia. Their Green Label event from the other week is up there. The Black Label event, All Eyes on Troy, is up there. And the last 2 years of events, at least, are up on Grapple right now for you to rate so that people can get around our Aussie wrestling and see that we are just as good as anywhere else in the world. Basically, Grapple is a Rotten Tomatoes for wrestling. Now we all get a say. It is the democratization of match rating systems for pro wrestling. It's amazing. So I get a say, you get a say. You can follow me on there at Greg Unchained. You can follow Big Boy Mikey at B+_Big Boy. At Mr. Mysterious is on there. At Danders is on there. At Jay is on there. We're all on there rating the matches that we watch. So follow us. We'll follow you back. Let's build this community and get as many Australian wrestling fans onto the Grapple app as we can. You can download it right now. It has over 30,000 matches on there going back to 1985, 15 promotions around the world. There's so much to do on the Grapple app. It's a great little community, so get around it. It's Grapple, GRAPPL.co, and it's for free on App Store and Google Play. Get around it. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OUTBREAKNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OUTBREAKNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B+ podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things. And everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
Alright guys, we are back here. Now let's talk about all the big goings on in the world of professional wrestling, all the signings, all the returns, who's injured, who's not, and just kicking ass right now, who's on the way out, and who just wants to... Yeah, who doesn't get what they want and who wants to get what they want? Does this make sense to you? It makes sense to me. So we're going to start with all the signings here. If you had listened to my Slammiversary recap, it came out a little late, but we had a big Slammiversary recap from Impact Wrestling. You would have seen a masked figure attack Michael Elgin after he lost his opportunity to win the world title against Brian Cage, the Machine. So he lost his match, and afterwards he was going to try and pick a fight with Don Callis, and then out of nowhere, some masked figure with very thick legs, speared Michael Elgin. But who was it, ladies and gentlemen? It was Rhino. It was obviously Rhino. Like, it was very distinctive, even though his face was covered. Now, people have actually kind of said, like, well, isn't he under contract with WWE? Technically, yes. So what's come out from the Observer and everything else is he is under contract until July 17th. Now, until that day, he cannot be seen on screen anywhere else. But the trick is, so he was under a mask, but it was obviously him. And I've been listening to the next episode of Impact Wrestling. You guys should check my next episode review for Impact Zone, but I'll give you a little sneak peek here. So when they were talking about, like, when the commentary were trying to say who is this masked man, and he speared or he gored Michael Elgin, like, you hear Josh Matthews go spit, go, spit, go. He's trying to say gore, but he keeps remembering like that will give it away, so he has to say spear. He's like, it's very little subtle thing there. I actually like that what Josh Matthews did. So, and I think WWE were doing nothing, absolutely nothing with Rhino, and he is a former NWA World Champion, a former TNA World Champion with like the original Impact, original TNA, right? And that means he can actually do something in Impact Wrestling. They would treat him better. They would actually, God forbid, let him wrestle. So, and I think WWE right now, they're not worried about Impact Wrestling. They're worried about All Elite. And as long as it's not All Elite Wrestling, and as long as he's abiding by his contract, he probably explained this is what he wants to do. Yeah, so it's a nice little twist on the fact that, so yes, he is technically under contract with WWE for another few days, and then he is a free agent, and then he'll probably do a couple matches in Impact Wrestling. So there you go. Rhino, don't poke the bear on social media until after his contract is up with WWE. So that's the story there. In terms of other signings or big returns, praise the wrestling gods, because Damian Sandow, aka Aaron Stevens, is returned to professional wrestling after a 2-year absence, and he's got a new gimmick at the moment. So he is going to be calling himself the Millennial Slayer. But we don't exactly know what this means. He's returning to a smaller little indie promotion. I have no idea what this means for him. And, like, I don't know if I should be worried. Like, I don't even know, like, I don't even know if I'm classed as a millennial. Like, I don't, like, because everyone throws around all these different year gaps and everything else. Like, are you a millennial? Like, can you explain to me, like, guys, like, leave me a message in my socials and like, actually explain to me what the criteria is for a millennial. Because, like, I get told, like, I'm Gen Y. Some people say I'm Gen Z, and then everything else. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but maybe other people should be worried. right? There's like some millennials in Australia that should probably be taken care of, or just around the world. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Good to see Damien Sandow come back. We'll see that happens there. In terms of another signing, the Good Brothers. So they have re-signed with WWE. I don't know if I touched on this last week, but I'll touch on it again. The Good Brothers have been rewarded for re-signing with WWE. They're back in storyline with the club with AJ Styles. Good for them. I was kind of hoping they go at All Elite, but that's not going to happen, which that's fair enough. We do have some injury reports. So unfortunately, last week didn't have much people to talk about. Unfortunately, now we do. So you had Aja Kong. Unfortunately, she has suffered an injury to her right meniscus. So she will be out of action for about 6 weeks. The report was very thorough. So they actually said that she'll be out of action for their July 21st like Oz Academy shows. She'll be back around about August 25th, where she will team up to face off against Hikaru Shida. So these, of course, ladies were the Joshi wrestlers for All Elite Wrestling. We'll see what happens moving forward there. But obviously, Aja Kong, big figure in the land of Joshi. Hope she recovers soon. And we can see more of her maybe by All Out, so that she should recover by then. We'll see what happens with that. This is actually a fresh report, guys. So Tamina. So WWE had a live event in Augusta on Friday for them, Saturday for us here in Australia. During the event, it was Sarah Logan and Tamina facing off against Dana Brooke and Naomi. According to a few fans in attendance, Tamina was apparently injured during the event. Tamina took a knee to the head during the match. She stayed down for quite a significant amount of time before walking to the back with assistance. So Tamina has just had the worst luck with injuries. Her career, if you want to call it that, with WWE, like, it's just been riddled with injuries. Like, I can't honestly tell you what her big crowning achievement has been in WWE, because for the life of me, she's always been the bouncer, the background women's wrestler, the enforcer, and when she's not that, she's just getting injured a whole goddamn lot. And when it's not that, she's getting injured a whole goddamn lot. So, obviously, best wishes for Tamina. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but yeah, just a bad time for people in terms of injuries. Another person, this isn't too bad. So these other two injuries are not too bad. So you have the Viper Randy Orton is actually out with a minor neck injury. So apparently at a house show, face off against Aleister Black before he has his match against Cesaro on pay-per-view on live TV. He apparently twinged his neck and he had a couple weeks off booked anyways. So WWE kind of just added an extra couple weeks just to make sure it's fully healed. So at the moment, WWE doing nothing with the Viper. I'm trying to remember his last storyline, but for life of me, it's just, yeah, they haven't really done much with him. But you know what? Maybe it'll be good for him. Like, he'll come back. He'll have a bit more momentum behind him, and yeah, who knows what they'll do with the Viper going forward. So, speedy recovery to you, Mr. Orton. And another person we wish a speedy recovery to is the WWE Champion Kofi Kingston. So, I feel like he has recovered. So, what's happened is, apparently he got injured on Raw this week, and he had to take a couple days off. So he was not on Smack. Apparently he was meant to team up with the New Day during their match on SmackDown, but they obviously had to change that. So God forbid the SmackDown champion was not on SmackDown for one day, even though he was on Raw the day before. Wildcard rules are a pain in the ass, but that's another discussion for another time. Really, so people were worried that he had to pull out of the match, but apparently he is not too injured to pull out, so he's still able to face off against Samoa Joe this Sunday for Extreme Rules. Kind of hoping that Joe was going to win this if Kofi Kingston's a little bit injured, not quite 100%, but we might not notice. We'll see what happens. Obviously, yeah, at the time of recording, it looks like Kofi Kingston's match is still a go. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Extreme Rules. So, you guys, hopefully we'll see what happens. In terms of people leaving this week, we do have a couple big ones. So, you have, in the land of Progress Wrestling, you have the pansexual wrestler known as Jack Sexsmith. So he's just had, talking about people who've had a string of bad injuries, man, he's had so many knee injuries. The pansexual phenomenon, he's been a part of a lot of UK promotions like Progress, Defiance. He's just, yeah, he's been a Riptide Wrestling, of course. He's been a big star for them. But yeah, he's had several torn ligaments in a knee that had previously undergone an ACL reconstruction. So when you have repeated knee injuries, like, yeah, you gotta hang up the boots, otherwise you ain't walking anymore. And yeah, Jack has said, yeah, it's time for me to call it quits, ladies and gentlemen, which sucks, but you know what? At least he's retiring at a good time now while he still can walk, which, yeah. But for all of you, like, go check out Progress, and yeah, he's very different. He's a very different entity, Jack Sexsmith. Another champion that is left a company, Johnny Goddamn Impact. God damn it. So you have all this stuff about LAX maybe leaving, maybe going to WWE or AEW. So that's been a rumor for a while. But another person who, out of the blue, Johnny Impact is no longer under contract with Impact Wrestling. The former world champion finished his obligations at Slammiversary after losing to Rich Swann. So I knew, if you hear my recap of Impact Zone with their match, I knew something was off. Like, something wasn't quite right. Like, they just were going through the motions for a good portion of that match. So like, apparently his contract expired several weeks ago, but he agreed to work the pay-per-view in order to close the storyline. So, like, absolute professional. Really appreciate that, Mr. Impact. Taya's, of course, under contract still until 2019, and she is still the Knockouts champion. So I'm very curious what's going to happen here. Now, like, just because Johnny is a free agent doesn't mean that he can't still wrestle with Impact Wrestling for, like, a little while. I'll get into full details with this during Impact Zone tomorrow, guys. But yeah, it's just bad timing. Another person has left Impact Wrestling at the worst possible time. It's just, it gets exhausting. It gets exhausting talking about the people that come in and come out of Impact Wrestling. It's just, I want it to be good, ladies and gentlemen. You should listen to my Impact Zone reviews. Like, the product is getting great. The product is getting better and better. It's just, the company just needs to lock down their stars, and then they'll be fine. It's exhausting, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to persevere. Let's talk about conspiracy theories, y'all. Because you have Vince Russo is back at it again. So break out the tinfoil hats. We talked about this a few weeks ago on All the Rest. So Vince Russo is trying to convince everybody that All Elite Wrestling and WWE are working together. So he's talking about, like, how back in the day they used to, ECW and WWE did have that kind of relationship with, like, WCW and WWE did have that kind of relationship at some point. And he's saying, like, don't be fooled again. Like, it's a big conspiracy, man. Like, and the second nugget. So Vince Russo is slowly trying to concoct this big conspiracy theory. Now, the second nugget that has come out from his podcast is the fact that, so we have these new executive directors of Raw and SmackDown, Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff, but Bruce Pritchard was returned to his, like, producer role in WWE a few months ago, and they're thinking, like, well, if Bruce Pritchard is there, like, why the hell isn't he doing anything? Like, what was the point of him coming back? So he's like, what if Bruce Pritchard is the go-between between All Elite Wrestling and WWE? So apparently, Pritchard, he's friends with a guy named Conrad Thompson. So they're close with AEW, and he believes that he is the go-between. This has been done before during the WCW days, and it's like, it sounds that one sounds kind of plausible. Like, the fact that they could be a go between there. And I have been curious exactly what Bruce Pritchard's role is in WWE now that you have Heyman and Bischoff. But you cannot agree with Vince Russo at all. So I do not believe in the slightest that these two companies are working together, because anytime you think you're agreeing with Vince Russo, you need to reassess your values, ladies and gentlemen. So if you think you've teetered off the edge, and if you think Vince Russo would agree with you on something, yeah, you need to change your attitude. And one of the reasons I think that these guys are definitely not working together is because you have guys like John Moxley, who on every podcast he's at just pretty much talks about how horrible the workplace conditions are in WWE. Shocker, I know. In another news, water is wet. So in the latest one, John Moxley, I can't remember the name of the podcast for the life of me. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. But he compared the current product of WWE, if he were to ever, like, he was talking about returning to WWE, and he's saying, like, oh, the answer is always never say never. Like, you can't say that in this business. But he's saying, like, maybe in 10 years' time, who knows what will happen. But he said, in terms of now, he would rather work in a grocery store than go back to WWE. A grocery store. That is some serious shit, right? And there was another big podcast interview that came out this week from Chris Van Vliet. The guy is crushing it in the world of exclusive content with professional wrestlers. So he actually interviewed the Young Bucks a couple days ago. And one of the nuggets of information they gave, so they even said that they gave up on the idea of working with WWE a long time ago, even though they were very, very close to being a part of it until Tony Khan got a hold of them. But they were talking about how bad the backstage environment was, and like, if they think it's bad now, imagine if they were contracted, right? But they were talking about a lot of big things. So they said that Park is on his way. They're just trying to sort out his obligations with Dragon Gate. He's like visa issues and everything else. So eventually he will be a part of All Elite Wrestling, which is great because in terms of like the mega heels they have, like the big main card heels, you got Jericho. I mean, MJF is amazing, but he needs time to evolve with the company. But yeah, you need the bastard in Elite Wrestling. They had this thing going with Hangman. I can't wait to see him return one day soon. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's one of the many things. And of course, the big reveal, as I talked about in the first half, ladies and gentlemen, that WWE and New Japan absolutely despise the Young Bucks now. I mean, how could they? I mean, they've only just changed the pay scale for their entire roster. I'm talking about WWE here, so they've made it so they've had to double the pay of all their workers and actually pay them appropriately. Like, dear God, perish the thought. So they've had to completely reevaluate their entire structure, and they're disrupting everything and proving that WWE is not the monarchy of professional wrestling that it once was. But yeah, that's like, I believe that. I'm not shocked by that at all. That if you think that WWE and New Japan don't hate the Young Bucks, I totally believe that. So if you're wondering how WWE are reacting, like the latest thing that WWE are doing, so they still have Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff in charge of the products. And the latest from those two camps is that, so the latest from SmackDown, this is sign of change. This is like a subtle thing, but the things that WWE are doing to combat All Elite Wrestling, the latest things that they're trying to do. So you have Vince McMahon was not at the latest episode of SmackDown. He oversaw the creators' decisions of SmackDown over the phone. You had Bruce Pritchard. You had Bruce Pritchard there as a go-between, and you had Triple H and Gorilla. So, like, yeah, it's progress, ladies and gentlemen. Vince McMahon is loosening his grip on his product and actually letting people do stuff there. He agrees that things need to change, and this is like a baby steps. Yes, he was on the conference call over the phone going through every little detail, but you know what? He wasn't at the event. we're slowly going to maybe see change. Maybe we'll see. Like, interestingly enough, apparently Eric Bischoff was not a part of that conference call, and you would think that him being a new executive director and all, that he'd kind of want to get a feel for the position that he's now in. A little bit bizarre, but I don't know. He doesn't necessarily need to right now. Over in WWE, over in Raw, I should say, on their side, one of the things that they're doing, apparently Paul Heyman. So last week, we found out that he is a big fan of Ricochet. He wants to give a massive push to Ricochet because to attract more of a teenage audience. And another thing that Mr. Paul Heyman likes, he likes his hosses, he likes his monsters. And one of the people that apparently is going to get a big push in the very near future is Braun Strowman. And long overdue. Like, we thought for the longest time that he was going to be World Universal Champion at some point. It seemed like he had it all there. It seemed like they were that close. He should have won it at Crown Jewel, but it was Lesnar again, and that happened. But it's just, and apparently they were talked about his attitude being a problem, and like he would come out late, and that he was a company guy to a point, and like now it seems like Paul Heyman is going to, like, by tooth and nail, he's going to make sure that Braun Strowman is going to be a monster again in Raw. So, if he can pull this off, I look forward to it, because Braun, we need another big man in the land of WWE land. So hopefully Braun Strowman can overcome the bad booking decisions from the past. I'm going to say 2 years. It's been a long time. Some people need to get these hands, and yeah, I look forward to it. I look forward to the latest thing that WWE are trying to do to combat the threat of All Elite Wrestling. Then the other thing, this is a very cheeky thing that they're doing. So for those people who have cancelled the WWE Network, for those lapsed fans who are not a fan of the current product anymore, you have a very limited time offer to renew your subscription of the WWE Network. 3 months of content for 99 cents. I shit you not, ladies and gentlemen, the value meal of network deals. For 3 months, you can watch the latest WWE news for 99 cents. And of course, during that time, you have Extreme Rules, TakeOver, Toronto, SummerSlam, Clash of Champions. Like, they're big selling points. Now, this is a very smart strategy because WWE, they don't have that Fox deal just yet. So we're in July, August, September. Like, by the time, if someone signs up now for 3 months, then we'll be in the period where SmackDown is a part of Fox, right? So for this third quarter, to slowly boost up the numbers and show that they're making a profit, quote unquote, for the third quarter, they're going to try and bring in as much of their lapsed fans as they can. And then afterwards, they choose to cancel again, so be it, because they have the Fox deal and they won't be as financially threatened. So this is a very, very sneaky ploy by WWE. But if you are indeed a lapsed fan of the product and you want to take advantage of this very insane offer, like, you probably will not see this again, if at all. You need to take advantage of it quick, because I can't believe that they've actually resorted to this. It's very blatant, but you know what? Fans should take advantage of it while they can. Money does not grow on trees, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll see what happens with that. Very, very sneaky by WWE. I saw right through that. Some other stuff at the land of now we're going to move to the more weirder side of WWE news throughout this week. So you have the best in the world. My voice is very, very sore, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. But Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre, they're facing off against Undertaker and Roman Reigns in a no holds barred match at Extreme Rules. And they have a tag name. And they have merchandise. Very surprised about this. So they are now called the Graveyard Dogs. Cool name, cool merch design, but I'm wondering why they they did not need to do this. They did not need to do this. And the fact that you give this team a name kind of makes it seem like, or maybe they could be a tag team down the line that could earn some tag team gold. Like, that's the only reason you should give a team a name like that. And not because if the Undertaker is going to, the rumors were, face off against Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam and retire in a good match, maybe at SummerSlam, maybe at Survivor Series, this means that this is a limited time, the Graveyard Dogs. It's only just going to be for this one-time thing, and it's a quick cash grab. I don't like the idea. And another thing I don't like is the fact that why these two are teammates, because WWE kind of want to sweep under the rug the fact that Undertaker lost to Roman Reigns. He put his coat, his hat, his wrestling boots in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania. It looked like he had the big, clean goodbye from wrestling. And then what happened? Saudi money. Goddamn Saudi money is what happened. And I do not like that WWE have not even acknowledged this fact. And they're just oh no, the big dog and the phenom. Let's distract everybody and call them the Graveyard Dogs. It's a cool name. It's a cool name, and the merch looks great. But I just don't like the destination we've got to with this one. I don't like the journey that we've got to this point. It's definitely not what they intended. And speaking of things that they probably did not intend to do, so it's been revealed on the Bella Twins podcast. They've actually revealed that they were meant to face off against the Iconics. They were meant to have a feud with the Iconics for the Women's Tag Team Championships after WrestleMania. This makes complete sense to me. So apparently they were going to have this big feud for a good couple months. And then Nikki and Brie found out that they could not because of health issues. I think Nikki had a brain cyst. This is all on their... this is all record, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah. And now, what have they done with the Iconics since they've won the women's tag titles? When is the last time they defended the belts on a pay-per-view? You can't remember, because neither can I, because they haven't done. And they were meant to face off against the Kabuki Warriors. They haven't done that yet either. It's just a mess. The NXT, the women's tag team titles has such promise, and now, it seemed like they were investing all this time in the Bella Twins, maybe coming back and maybe winning the belts off the Iconics to make the belts truly have prestige, from some former divas and everything else. Whether you believe that or not is debatable. And I can totally see this is what the original plan was. Another plan, this one kind of made me laugh. So apparently the original plan for Batista's match against Triple H at WrestleMania, that was actually meant to be a Hell in a Cell match. So what happened was, so they actually pitched the idea to Vince McMahon, and he said no, and it would be better for a no holds bars match. You can kind of see it in their match they had. I don't know if it would have improved it, the fact that they would have had a Hell in a Cell match, but the reason I included it, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that Batista didn't get what he wanted in the end. So that's not what he wanted. Give him what he wanted. Give him what he wanted. This isn't what he wanted. But nevertheless, that was a great send-off for the Animal at WrestleMania. It was a very weird send-off, but it was a send-off nonetheless. That's just a lot of weird news that we got from this week, guys. I've got a couple other weird stories before I finish off. Hardcore legend, former ECW star, New Jack, terrifying man, is releasing a memoir about his life. This I'm no idea. Memoir of a Pro Wrestling Extremist. Yeah, that's the title. That makes total sense to me. Apparently, through the promotional material, New Jack will open up about the land of ECW, how he made a permanent mark on the landscape, his weapon-filled mat wars that trample on the lines between reality and entertainment. Yeah, all this is true. I'm terrified to even read this. I have no idea. He talks about a drug addiction he had, a past life as a bounty hunter, like his place in wrestling history. Like, I am terrified of even reading this, like, because New Jack is a terrifying man. This could be a horror. This couldn't be a memoir. This could be a horror story waiting to happen. Maybe I'll get a copy at some point and just like read you guys a couple passages, because it's gonna get weird. It's gonna get weird. I can feel it right now. Speaking of weird, an interesting thing happened at a Blink-182 concert. Enzo and Joey Janela were at the same concert, and they got into a fight. An actual shoot fight. Now, these guys were feuding online for ages and ages and ages. It spilled out into the real world at the Blink-182 concert. Apparently, Janela introduced himself to Enzo, and Enzo just he introduced himself to Enzo saying like, "Hi, I'm Joey Janela. Want to fight?" And it's like, "Yep, that's what happened." And a brawl happened. Apparently, Enzo punched Janela in the face, and Enzo was the first person. These guys are still fighting. So, and like, just, it's so stupid. It's so stupid, this thing. Like, they're still going with this feud. And I think this was a shoot that turned into a work. I honestly feel like this is what's happened. They just happened to be at the same concert, and now they're capitalizing on it in the whatever way they can. And it's just with Janela trying to downplay all of this, and Enzo being Enzo, trying to be the absolute, like, trying to teach all of us that, all of the, and what is he trying to teach? The fact that he thinks that Janela is a straight up cat. I'm not going to say the words here, but yeah, you get the idea. It's just a bunch of white noise, and it's just, yeah, it's not the weirdest story that has come across my desk. So I thought this would end this week's episode of All the Rest, but nope. So apparently, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, of course, at the moment, the story of the 24/7 championship is a wondrous thing. The stories that come on, the stories that the lower card concoct. At the moment, you have Drake Maverick, who is trying to consummate his marriage with his wife. R-Truth is looking for him right now, the 8-time 24/7 champion. Now, remember the big thing where R-Truth defeated Drake Maverick for the title at his wedding. That was a big thing. Now, apparently, it's been revealed on Edge and Christian's podcast that Truth intended to, like, he was at the wedding, but he intended to be under the veil that Drake Maverick was going to, like, instead of kissing his wife, like taking off the veil and it's his wife, it would be R-Truth. Now, he pitched this idea to Vince McMahon, right? He was going to wear a wedding dress. He was going to go the whole 9 yards. And Vince McMahon said, "That sounds like he's trying to be funny. Tell Truth to just be funny, be himself." So Vince McMahon, like, you hear all this stuff about Vince McMahon, like R-Truth never says no to Vince McMahon, but Vince McMahon has said no to this crazy idea. That would have been hilarious, by the way, but the fact that an idea was too crazy for Vince McMahon, and something that he thought would be too funny, like, would come off as, like, basic comedy that was not going to be funny. The fact that he thought that after years of botched comedy angles, and, like, the fact that you heard that he didn't think that the doctor skit with John Moxley within the syringe was not prop comedy and everything else. Like, the fact that an idea was too crazy for Vince freaking McMahon just baffled my mind, ladies and gentlemen. Like, just think about that. The man who has come up with, like, incest angles. He's come up with, like, making himself a higher power. He's fought God. Vince McMahon has fought God in a wrestling match, and this was too crazy for Vince McMahon. I need you guys to ponder that and just tell me what you think the craziest thing that Vince McMahon has ever done, because trust me, there is a lot in that encyclopedia to unpack. like, message us at the B Plus and let us know what you think has been the craziest thing Vince McMahon has ever done. And if you thought that this idea that R-Truth had to buy a wedding dress and to like go one step further at that wedding was too crazy, I don't think it was too crazy. And I think just R-Truth was probably tapping into the weird mindset of one Vince and Kennedy McMahon. And that's where I'm going to leave things for you guys right now. So if you want to follow us here at the B Plus, because we're a great bunch if I do say so myself, we are at the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. If you want to follow me, guys, I'm at Mr. Mysterious with a 107 I on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Grapple. Follow us on our journey on Grapple, where we're rating all of the wrestling products. And yeah, we'd love to be a part of this lovely journey of pro wrestling with all of you. Remember, we have our Patreon. Any amount you can donate would be greatly appreciated, so we can keep giving you all what you want, when you want, highlighting the very best of Australian wrestling, and keeping you up to date on all the wrestling news from around the globe. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. I've been Mr. Mysterious for all the rest, and I'll see you later.